Hello, and welcome to Autism Resource Central's ASD Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Burns. I'm a member of the Autism Resource Center. I've been doing this for 5 years. I got a certificate from Quinsigamond Community College back in 2016, and I am working at the Home Depot in Bellingham. And my guest today is Mr. Ryan Litchfield. Ryan Litchfield graduated from Assumption College in Worcester, and he's been speaking to students and teachers and adults about autism. Hi, Ryan. Nice to see you, and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. I'm happy to be here.
So, Ryan, tell me about how your first got started with sharing your personal experiences with autism through public speaking.
Sure. So, it's interesting because it all started when I was a junior in high school. So I went to Wachusett, and so one of the teachers actually reached out to me, as well as another student on the autism spectrum, to see if we were interested in going to an elementary school to share about, our personal journeys with autism, to educate, these students and these, teachers, and it was all part of like a special series that the district was doing, to promote autism advocacy. And so we ended up going to the elementary school, and I shared I shared my personal experiences. I shared, what it was like to live on the autism spectrum. Some of the challenges, but also, just some of the successes, because, there's a lot of people on the autism spectrum that are very successful, as well as, other individuals that are on the spectrum. And again, the other student that was sharing as well, shared her similar experiences as well.
Yeah. I wish I had known back when I was in high school that, I was autistic, because I didn't know till well after high school that I was, autistic. So I would have loved to have, done some, advocating back then, and maybe even, try to find ways to do it now, because I feel like that's such an important issue.
Absolutely. I was going to say, a lot of individuals on the spectrum, are not like diagnosed until, diagnosed at a younger age anyway. But now we're seeing more individuals being, diagnosed even into adulthood and stuff. But there wasn't a lot of awareness back in the day, but now there is. Just to add to that.
Yeah, back in the day, I don't even remember like what services were available. Now it's like I can name like 3 of them. So I wish we had more stuff like that back when I was growing up. So what did you find rewarding when you first spoke about your experiences with autism to students and teachers and other adults?
What was really interesting is, when, you're sharing, personal experiences, you're not just sharing like about, like the challenges and, like the diagnosis of, being on the autism spectrum, but you're kind of just sharing, who you are as a person, because what's unique is like every person, whether somebody has autism or a different type of disability, at the end of the day, a person is always going to be a person first. And so what I found unique was, in addition to, the students and the teachers asking a lot of great questions about, like what autism is, how to support somebody on the autism spectrum, or just simply like how to support a friend on the autism spectrum. I had students asking me questions like, what's your favorite, food? What's your favorite video game? What's your favorite, outdoor hobby, favorite activity? And all of those questions, it just really, it gave me insight in that, they're looking at me as, not just somebody with autism, but they're looking at somebody, as a person. And I think, that's really important, when interacting with anybody on the autism spectrum, to, first and foremost, to acknowledge that, a person is always a person first.
I know in my experience, I grew up with 2 sisters, an older and a younger. And, I feel like if you don't know how to deal with someone on the autism spectrum, just look at the sibling and they'll show you what to do. Because, it's been great, having, people in my corner who know, what it's all about and, know how to treat people. And, I do, get what you're saying about, oh, what's your favorite food or what's your favorite video game? Because some people overlook that and they just focus on the issue at hand, which is you're autistic and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. It's like, I mean, it's, again, it's good to know about a person's hobbies and interests, because, again, I like it, the whole idea is of person first language, and just really seeing the person as a person. And, what you just mentioned is really interesting as well.
I do feel like, with people on the autism spectrum and with other disabilities, there's so much more than what their disabilities are. You'd be surprised at what you can learn from someone other than they're autistic or they have Down syndrome or, other special needs.
Absolutely.
So one of my other questions I have for you is, what are your thoughts about folks speaking about autism as part of your business for helping adults on the autism spectrum in the future?
Yeah. So before I, address that question, something I do want to add is, so after I did the public speaking, at that elementary school, that continued into college. So I ended up speaking to college classes. I ended up speaking. I've actually spoke to some of the clinicians and some of the professionals actually at the Autism Center a couple of times. I've also spoken to law enforcement. I've also have done some trainings with independent living centers. So I have a lot of background, experience with just not only sharing my personal experiences with autism, but also just, sharing insights, from other perspectives and really, just getting a feel, this is what life is like for somebody with autism, and that autism is a spectrum, but again, as I mentioned before, we're always going to be people first. And sometimes, what's amazing about people with autism is it's like, they have, these amazing jobs. I see, in people on the spectrum, having their own house, being in relationships, going on to college, people on the autism spectrum have so many different strengths and talents. It's amazing. I mean, it's, some are visual thinkers, some, are, mathematical thinkers. Then you have individuals that are just so many great strengths, like detail oriented, they're organized, they're dependable, reliable, which, again, it's a lot of great strengths for, especially for like an employer to recognize.
I know
Like,
for me, I'm at least one of those things.
oh, absolutely, so I think, that's really, important in terms of, just acknowledging that it's like a holistic approach, or, a holistic view of a person. And so I think, that's why have found over the years, going to, talk to different age groups and talking to different professionals about autism, it just opened the eyes of so many people. And I can just remember, like, even parents and family members, they were just coming up to me and they're like, you're an inspiration, you bring hope and strength to others. That's like some of the best comments, like, and that's just, compared to where I was at 2 years old, where I couldn't talk, I couldn't verbalize, I couldn't gesture. You like, it was, I was, they questioned, if I was going to be able to do things independently. And now today it's like, I've gone on to, work, and I've gone on to, I've got a degree, at Assumption, and I've gone on, to do some of the things that,
You've done some pretty amazing
affect.
things since you were 2 years old. A lot of
Oh, yeah.
people can't even, like, a lot of people on the autism spectrum, would just be amazed to know someone like you. And amazed to know someone like me who's had a job at the Home Depot for 5 years, or what other people are doing on the spectrum. We could be role
Absolutely.
models too, and it just goes to show you that there are a lot of role models, and they come in all shapes and forms, and they come at any age.
It's just interesting because one of the analogies that comes to mind is the Android and the iOS. When you're talking about like technology, because they both, they promote the same outcome, but and they're just different ways of achieving success. And what's amazing is, again, being on the autism spectrum, we have various strengths, various abilities, various talents that we have to offer to society. And I mean, even in society today, there are challenges, but I mean, I've seen a lot of success stories and a lot of outcomes, and like I just mentioned, like there's people that have gone on to do amazing, incredible things, like even solving some of the world's most complex problems, that and even just coming up with ideas that other people haven't even thought of, like it's like that light bulb idea where, that somebody on the spectrum will have, and then it's like, and then the other individual's like, oh, you know what? I haven't even thought of that idea, but and it sounds like a really great idea. It's like, again, it's like tapping into their potential and stuff, and that's something I'm trying to get across. Like, to a variety of different, professionals, organizations, agencies, families, individuals, um, even to the schools. Um, so there's a lot of great stuff, about that. And what I'm hoping to do in the future, my plan is actually I'm going to be doing a workshop series, presenting topics, on independent living related to the autism spectrum. I'm doing this for the Center for Living and Working. So I'm really looking forward to that, sharing that knowledge, and also just, sharing some insights, and, again, promoting more awareness and advocacy, because it's something I'm truly passionate about. And then I'm also hoping, the plan is to, work on, trying to develop a plan to get a business going, a side business going, to support like life skills, to adults on the autism spectrum, and perhaps even continue with the workshops and training, for the professionals and for people in the field that, want to help make change, for the autism community, and really want, to really promote the strengths and the talents of these individuals on the autism spectrum, because I think that's so important.
That all sounds great. I would love to, do stuff like that, in the future, and, see what happens in the next 5 or 10 or 15 years, and with your thing about the whole iOS and Android, it's all just a personal preference. It's all what works for one person, because what works for one person may not necessarily work for others. Being in school, there was some things that worked for me, but didn't always work for some other people. And, that's okay, with, in the working force, some things, there are some things that people have done, and it doesn't necessarily work for me, but it could work for other people, because everybody responds differently.
Exactly. And I think, Tao, that's a great point. We again, we are all different. We all have different strengths, different talents. We all learn differently. We all communicate differently. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's like, as long as you are able to reach that outcome, then that's what matters the most, is reaching that outcome. I mean, it's almost like a math problem. It's like there's more than one way to solve a math problem, whether if you do it with numbers, or with candy, or with technology, whatever you got to use to, to figure out an equation, or to figure out, just arithmetic.
In my personal opinion, I've been using my fingers for years, trying to figure out how do you get from like 5 + 2 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, So that way works for me. Doesn't necessarily work for someone else, but some people, maybe need the calculator. That also works for me too. I mean, if there's bigger problems that I can't solve, use my old noggin or use my fingers, well, the calculator's there. But it's like back when I was growing up, there wasn't really much thing as a calculator. So, it's nice to know that things are evolving and things are, changing for the better. And it's not stopping there. It's always, going to keep evolving.
Absolutely.
We just have to tell people about it so they're aware of all these future changes and what's currently going on. So, anything else you would like to add? Any final comments or any final quotes or questions?
I'm very grateful and very thankful to have this opportunity to be part of this podcast. You know, I remember, doing the interview for the first episode, and now I'm actually the person being interviewed for the second episode. But I just think sometimes it's great to promote a voice for, for as someone on the autism spectrum who lived through it. And something I just want to share to people out there is that, people on the autism spectrum have a lot of strengths and a lot of talents, and there's always going to be hope. Um, and again, we're seeing all the strengths and talents, come about in, the field of employment, like who, or even in college, or a variety of different areas of life. And even just, we've seen people, on the autism spectrum, develop, other skills like resiliency and perseverance. which I think, for you and I, Tyler, that's kind of what we have, as people on the autism spectrum. Like, we're demonstrating resiliency and perseverance, on a daily basis, getting up every single day and just doing our very best. And so
And
I
sometimes
just,
that's all you can do.
absolutely. And so, again, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I really look forward to continuing to, advocate and to support, families, individuals, and communities about the autism spectrum. And I really hope that, by people listening to this, and to future, podcast episodes, that again, there will be a sense of awareness and the development of something really special. And I think there is something really incredible that could, happen. And so, again, I mean, I just want to say thank you. And it was a pleasure talking with you, Tyler.
Well, Ryan, I really want to thank you for spending some time talking with us today to share your personal story and to talk about your recent work experience, your experience working with people, trying to get the word out about autism to students and teachers and other adults. And it was a pleasure to having you as a guest. And I wish you the best of luck with all your future career endeavors. And I hope that one day we can change the world, of autism for the better.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to Autism Resource Central's ASD Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Burns. Thank you for listening in. This program is funded by the Massachusetts Department of Developmental Services and administered by HMEA Inc. HMEA is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to teach, support, and empower people with developmental disabilities and their families to live meaningful lives of their choice. To learn more, visit autismresourcecentral.org. Thank you. Have a good day.